The Judgment of the Eternal Council. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Eternal Council floated in the geometric center of the known galaxy, a testament to 5 million years of collective civilization. Its crystalline walls pulsed with the heartbeat of 1,000 star systems, each pulse representing billions of lives under the Council's protection. Today, those walls witnessed something unprecedented. For the first time in 3 millennia, every seat in the amphitheater was occupied, and every eye focused on the lone human figure standing at the center. Ambassador Victoria Sterling felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on her like the gravity of a collapsing star. She had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, yet nothing could have prepared her for the sheer alienness of the beings surrounding her. The Zephrani floated in their atmospheric bubbles, their gaseous forms shifting between colors that human eyes could barely perceive. The Corinthians sat motionless, their silicon-based bodies resembling living mountains more than sentient beings. And at the apex of the assembly, the Primarch of the Eternal Council, a being so ancient that its original species name had been forgotten, regarded her with eyes that had witnessed the birth and death of entire civilizations. The Primarch's voice resonated not through sound but directly into the consciousness of every being present. It spoke of concerns that had been building for centuries. Humanity had achieved spaceflight only 400 years ago, yet they had already colonized 300 systems. Species that had taken millions of years to spread across a dozen worlds watched in alarm as humans adapted to environments that should have been lethal. They thrived in high-gravity worlds that would crush most species. They survived in radiation zones that killed others within hours. They even established colonies in binary star systems where the chaotic stellar forces should have made life impossible. Victoria listened to each accusation, her expression carefully neutral. When the Primarch finally fell silent, she stepped forward. Her voice, amplified by the chamber's acoustics, carried to every corner of the vast hall. She spoke of humanity's contributions to the galactic community. Human medical advances had cured diseases that had plagued the Corinthians for eons. Human engineers had designed trade routes that increased efficiency by 30% across all council space. Human artists had created works that moved even the emotionless Zephrani to something approaching wonder. But her words fell on deaf ears. The council had made its decision long before this trial began. The Primarch raised one of its 4 arms, and silence fell like a curtain across the assembly. The verdict was unanimous. Humanity was deemed too unpredictable, too adaptable, too dangerous to remain within council space. They would be banished to the Crimson Void, a region of space so desolate that even light seemed to die there. No stars burned in that abyss. No planets orbited in that darkness. It was a prison without walls, a death sentence without execution. Victoria's composure finally cracked. 8 billion humans lived within council space. Families who had known nothing but peace for generations. Children who had never seen Earth but called 100 different worlds home. Scientists on the verge of breakthroughs that could benefit every species in the galaxy. All of them condemned to exile in a region of space that had never supported life and never would. The Council gave humanity 6 months to evacuate. Any human remaining in Council space after that deadline would be eliminated without warning or mercy. As security drones escorted Victoria from the chamber, she turned back one final time. Her voice carried clearly across the silent hall. She told them that humanity had survived ice ages and nuclear wars, plagues and famines, the vacuum of space and the pressure of ocean depths. The Crimson Void would not be their grave. It would be their crucible. The exodus began within days. Every human ship capable of interstellar flight was pressed into service. Cargo vessels designed for short-range transport were hastily retrofitted with life support systems for longer journeys. Military ships abandoned their weapons to make room for civilians. Even luxury yachts owned by the wealthy were requisitioned and packed with refugees. The convoy that finally assembled at the border of Council space stretched for light years, a river of metal and hope flowing toward the darkness. Commander Zhang Wei stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Horizon, one of the few vessels actually designed for long-term habitation. Through the viewports, he watched the last stars of Council space fade behind them as they crossed into the crimson void. The name was apartment. Whatever exotic radiation permeated this region gave everything a deep red tinge, as if they were sailing through an ocean of blood. His instruments showed nothing ahead. No stellar bodies, no asteroids, not even cosmic dust. Just an endless expanse of crimson emptiness. The first weeks were the hardest. Without stars to navigate by, ships became lost. Without planets to mine, resources began running low. Without hope of rescue or return, despair spread through the convoy like a virus. 3 ships suffered complete life support failure in the first month. Another 2 collided in the darkness, their navigation systems unable to cope with the absence of stellar reference points. By the second month, food riots had broken out on several vessels. It was during one of these desperate moments that the first discovery was made. A young engineer named Rosa Martinez was trying to boost their communication array when she detected something impossible. Energy readings in the void, but unlike anything in their databases. The radiation wasn't coming from a star or any known cosmic phenomenon. It was coming from the void itself, as if the emptiness was somehow generating power. Zhang ordered every available sensor focused on these anomalies. What they found defied conventional physics. The crimson void wasn't empty at all. It was filled with a form of energy that existed in a state between matter and antimatter, constantly fluctuating between existence and non-existence. It was as if the void was breathing, inhaling and exhaling reality itself. More importantly, this energy could be harnessed. The process was dangerous. The first attempts to capture void energy resulted in explosions that destroyed entire sections of ships. But humans had always been good at learning from failure. Each disaster taught them something new. Each death brought them closer to understanding. Within 3 months, they had developed containment fields that could hold void energy stable enough to use. Within 6 months, every ship in the convoy was powered by the crimson darkness itself. But survival wasn't enough. They needed to build, to grow, to prove that humanity could thrive even in this cosmic desert. Using void energy as both power source and building material, they began constructing something unprecedented. Not a planet or a space station, but something entirely new. They called it Haven Prime, a city that existed partially in normal space and partially in the void itself, anchored to reality by human will and ingenuity. The construction process killed hundreds. Void energy was unpredictable, and mistakes were fatal. But for every person who died, 10 more volunteered to take their place. They were building more than a city. They were building a future. Haven Prime grew from a small research station to a sprawling metropolis floating in the crimson darkness. Its towers stretched into dimensions that shouldn't exist. Its foundations were rooted in the fabric of space-time itself. As the first year in the void came to an end, humanity had not only survived but begun to thrive. Children were being born who would never know natural starlight, but who could manipulate void energy with an ease that amazed their parents. Scientists were making discoveries that would have been impossible in normal space. Artists were creating works inspired by the alien beauty of the crimson darkness. And in the depths of the void, in ruins older than the council itself, they found evidence that they were not the first to be banished here. Someone else had been exiled to this darkness long ago, and they had left something behind. Something waiting. The rise of the Void Empire. The discovery of the precursor ruins changed everything. Commander Zhang Wei led the first exploration team personally, despite protests from his advisors. The structures had been detected by accident, hidden in a fold of space-time that only became visible when viewed through void energy filters. They were massive, larger than any city humanity had ever built, and they were impossibly ancient. Carbon dating was useless here, but the quantum decay pattern suggested these ruins were older than the universe itself, a paradox that should have been impossible. The architecture defied human understanding. Corridors that looped back on themselves while somehow continuing forward. Rooms that were bigger on the inside than the structures that contained them. Gravity that flowed in directions that didn't exist. But strangest of all were the murals. Carved into walls of an unknown material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, they told a story that spanned eons. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading xenoarchaeologist before the exile, spent months deciphering the images. What she found both terrified and inspired her. The precursors hadn't been banished to the void. They had created it. They had been a species so advanced that conventional reality had become a prison. So they had carved out this space between dimensions, this crimson void, as a laboratory where the laws of physics were suggestions rather than rules. Here they had experimented with the fundamental forces of existence itself. But something had gone wrong. The murals showed the precursors ascending, transforming into beings of pure consciousness. Most had succeeded in their transformation, leaving behind their physical forms to exist as living ideas in dimensions beyond human comprehension. But some had failed, had been caught between states of being, neither physical nor purely mental. These failures had been imprisoned in crystalline structures scattered throughout the ruins, waiting. It was Rosa Martinez who accidentally awakened the first one. She had been studying one of the containment crystals when her void energy manipulator resonated with it. The crystal shattered, and something emerged. Not a creature, but a presence, a consciousness without form that spoke directly into her mind. It was confused, ancient, and utterly alien, but it was also grateful. For millions of years, it had been trapped between existence and non-existence. Now, freed by human intervention, it offered knowledge in exchange for its liberation. The entity, which called itself Echo for lack of a better translation, became humanity's guide to the true potential of the void. Through Echo, they learned that void energy wasn't just power. It was possibility itself, the raw stuff of creation before it was shaped into reality. With proper understanding, humans could use it to reshape matter at the subatomic level, to bend space and time, to create things that shouldn't be able to exist. The first generation of void-born children proved especially adept at these manipulations. Little Maya Chen, born 3 months after humanity entered the void, could shape void energy into solid constructs by the time she was 2 years old. By age 5, she was teaching adult scientists new applications they had never imagined. These children didn't see the void as exile or punishment. To them, it was simply home, and they were perfectly adapted to it. Under Echo's guidance and with the innovations of the void-born generation, humanity began building something unprecedented. Not just cities, but entire worlds crafted from void energy and human imagination. They called them dream spheres, pocket dimensions where the laws of physics could be rewritten at will. Each sphere was a work of art, a testament to human creativity unbound by conventional limitations. The agricultural sphere solved their food crisis permanently. Inside, time moved faster, allowing crops to grow in minutes instead of months. The industrial sphere operated with perfect efficiency, where entropy could be reversed and nothing was ever wasted. The research sphere existed in a state of quantum superposition, where experiments could be run on all possible outcomes simultaneously. But the military applications were what truly transformed humanity. Ships equipped with void drives could phase in and out of reality, becoming untouchable ghosts one moment and solid weapons the next. Weapons that fired concentrated void energy could unmake matter at the fundamental level, erasing targets from existence rather than destroying them. Shields made of crystallized void energy could withstand forces that would shatter planets. 5 years after the exile, humanity in the void had become something the Council could never have imagined. They were no longer just human. They were something new, something evolved. The void hadn't weakened them, it had transformed them into beings capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of reality itself. Their population had doubled, their technology had advanced by millennia, and their understanding of the universe had deepened beyond measure. Admiral Victoria Sterling, promoted after her defiant stand before the Council, now commanded the Void Fleet. Her ships numbered in the thousands, each one capable of feats that would seem like magic to the Council species. But she had no interest in revenge or conquest. Humanity had found something better in the void, true freedom. Freedom from the limitations of conventional physics, freedom from the politics of the Council, freedom to evolve and grow without restraint. The decision to send a message back to the Council wasn't made lightly. For months, the human leadership debated whether contact should be re-established at all. Some argued for complete isolation, to let the Council believe humanity had perished. Others wanted to return in force, to show the Council the consequences of their judgment. In the end, they chose a middle path. The message was delivered by a single ship, the Messenger, which phase-shifted into existence in the middle of the Grand Assembly Hall without warning. The Council's security systems, designed to detect and stop any possible threat, didn't even register its presence until it chose to be seen. Ambassador Sterling appeared as a hologram, but she was changed. Her eyes held depths of crimson light, and when she moved, she seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. Her message was simple. Humanity had survived. They had thrived. They had become something beyond what they were before. The Crimson Void was no longer a prison but a kingdom, and humanity was its master. They held no grudge against the Council for the exile. In fact, they were grateful. The Council had given humanity the greatest gift possible, the chance to evolve beyond the limitations of conventional existence. But the message came with a warning. The Void was now human territory. Any ship that entered would be considered an invader. Any species that attempted to use the Void as a prison for others would find that prison already occupied by a very protective warden. Humanity would police the Void, would protect any new exiles, would ensure that what was meant as a death sentence would become an opportunity for transformation. The Council's response was panic. They had created the very threat they had sought to prevent. By exiling humanity to the Void, they had forced them to evolve, to become something far more powerful than they ever could have been within the comfortable confines of Council space. Some called for immediate military action, but their wisest members knew it was already too late. You cannot fight an enemy that exists partially outside reality itself. In the Void, humanity continued to grow. More precursor ruins were discovered, each one revealing new secrets about the nature of existence. The Void-born children, now teenagers, were developing abilities that even Echo couldn't fully explain. Some could see probability streams, observing all possible futures simultaneously. Others could reach across dimensions, touching alternate realities where history had taken different paths. Maya Chen, now 17, had become something unprecedented. She could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, her consciousness spread across different realities while maintaining a singular identity. Through her eyes, humanity saw infinite possibilities. Worlds where they had never been exiled, where the Council had embraced them, where Earth had never developed life at all. Each vision taught them something new about the nature of existence. The transformation wasn't without cost. Some humans couldn't handle the psychological strain of existing partially outside normal reality. They became lost in the Void, their consciousness scattered across dimensions. Others became addicted to Void energy, consuming it until they burned out like supernovas. But for every loss, there were 10 successes, 10 humans who successfully integrated Void energy into their being and became something greater. As the 10th year of exile approached, humanity had built an empire in the Void. Hundreds of dream spheres floated in the crimson darkness, each one a world unto itself. The population had reached 20 billion, with more being born every day. Trade had been established with other exiled species found in the Void, ancient beings who had been banished long before humanity and had given up hope of ever thriving again. The Void Council, as humanity's government came to be known, established laws and principles for their new civilization. They would be the guardians of the Void, the protectors of the exiled, the shepherds of those the greater galaxy had abandoned. They would not seek revenge on the Council, but neither would they forget. The Void had made them strong, but it was human will that had made them unbreakable. In a ceremony attended by every human in the Void, connected through consciousness-linking technology derived from precursor ruins, Admiral Sterling made a declaration that would echo through dimensions. Humanity was no longer asking for a place at the table of galactic civilization. They had built their own table, in their own dimension, with their own rules. The void was their kingdom, and from that kingdom, they would watch over all those the universe had forgotten. The story of humanity's exile had become a legend throughout council space. Some species spoke of it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of pushing humans too far. Others saw it as proof that the council's judgment had been correct, that humanity was indeed too dangerous to contain. But in the void, among the crimson darkness and impossible geometries, humanity knew the truth. They had not been banished. They had been set free. As Commander Zhang Wei stood on the observation deck of Haven Prime, watching void-born children play in gardens made of crystallized spacetime, he reflected on how far they had come. The Council had tried to destroy them with exile, but instead had given them the greatest gift imaginable. They had forced humanity to evolve, to transcend, to become something that would endure long after the Council's civilization had crumbled to dust. The void had transformed them, but it had not changed their fundamental nature. They were still human, curious, adaptable, stubborn, and absolutely refusing to surrender. The crimson darkness that was meant to be their tomb had become their chrysalis. And from that chrysalis, something new had emerged. Not just survivors, but masters of a realm beyond conventional understanding. The abyss had gazed into humanity, and humanity had made the abyss their home.